Number 2, sugar. There was no diabetes on the planet till sugar was established. In his fascinating account of the history of sugar, William Dufty, the book's called Sugar Blues, because what does sugar cause? The blues. It gets a blood sugar level rise incredibly fast, and very quickly the brain says to the pancreas, quick, overload of glucose, send a corresponding amount of insulin. And so the insulin comes and it does a good job and it gets it down, down, down. Yeah. And now the brain says, oh no, we're too low. Stop the insulin, release the glucagon. Glucagon's the one that gets it up again, but what does the person usually do down there? Have a sweet, yeah, to get it up again. Does that get it up? Oh yes. Now it's too high. Oh no, now we're too high. Stop the glucagon. And that poor old pancreas, what's happening? Gets to the point where it says, oh, I'm sick of this. I'm not going to go to work anymore. But something happens before that. And that is, with this high glucose, high insulin, trying to get into the cell ends up going, I'm sick of the sight of you, we've already got too much. It's called insulin resistance. And so what happens is, the brain thinks there's still too much glucose, more insulin, more insulin, more insulin, but it's actually not getting into the cell because there's insulin resistance, so the glucose has to spill out somewhere into the urine. Diabetes mellitus means sweet urine. The overflow is being urinated out. And we've got a very unhappy pancreas that says, I'm done. Not doing this anymore. I'm against child abuse, I'm against animal abuse, and I'm against pancreatic abuse. But what a huge deception when the people don't realise that isn't that the worst deception? That's like kicking a dog and not realising it's hurting the dog. It's crazy. And isn't that what deception is? And in Revelation chapter 12, verse 9, the Bible says that great deceiver was cast out, that great dragon was cast out, the old deceiver called the devil and Satan, which has deceived the whole world, even in the food. That's what he's best at, deception. The third, and as a child, this is what we had for breakfast every day, the milk. Isn't that right? The milk on the cereal with the sugar on top. So we've looked at how the first two are big contributing factors to diabetes. What about the milk? In his book, Dr. Colin Candle states, in his book, The China Study, he shows, in fact, he's got 70 years of research up his sleeve. He hasn't been researching for 70 years, but he quotes a lot of other research, that when we don't have the enzymes in our gut to break down milk, and do you know we don't really have them past babyhood? There are some tribes, like the Maasai, who do still have that enzyme in their gut because for centuries they live on blood, milk and meat. Now, it's not a balanced diet, and I think they live and are as healthy as they are because they're so active. But it certainly isn't an ideal diet, but they do have the enzymes in the gut that break down the cow's milk. So my girlfriend, she has an orphanage in Nakuru, Kenya, and they never used to take babies, but last 10 years they've started to take baby orphans. And they had some Maasai babies, and the Maasai babies do not do well on the soy milk. She said all the babies, they give soy milk because they're vegetarians themselves. And the husband was watching these babies getting thinner and sicker, so he went and bought a cow, milked the cow, gave the cow's milk to the Maasai babies, and the Maasai babies thrive because they have their enzymes. So we also need to look at genetics. I'm a 5th generation Australian Scottish descent, have never been able to handle milk. When I was a little girl, we used to have to drink a bottle of milk. Remember that those from my era in school every day? I just felt ill after this milk. It's obviously not in my genes. I don't think there are any dairy farmers back there. But when there's dairy farming in the family, you know, they are more likely to have the enzymes that can break down those big molecules from the cow's milk. But most people don't. The current research in Australia showed that 60% of Australians can't handle the cow's milk. See, cow's milk's very good milk for baby calves. And people say, what milk do you drink, Barbara? I say, I'm weaned, I eat food. Milk's for babies. I breastfed all my babies for 2-3 years, last one 3 years. And by the time they'd weaned, they had a full set of teeth and they were eating food. No need for any other milk. So what happens in the gut when the milk is not broken down properly and it gets into the blood? Antibodies are made to wipe out those partially digested protein and dairy molecules. But the shape of them is very similar to the beta cells in the pancreas that make insulin. And so what these antibodies do is they come along and they start wiping out the beta cells because they're very similar in structure to those molecules from the milk. So these three foods that so predominantly been eating for breakfast are big contributing factors to diabetes. And a bleach that bleaches white flour, well, refined flour white, because refined flour, when the germ and the bran are taken out, it's probably the colour of the inside of my skin. But they want it white, so they bleach it. And the bleach is allantoin. That's the name of the bleach that they bleach flour to make it white. And they have shown that allantoin kills the beta cells in the pancreas. Whew. No wonder we have 500 new diabetics being diagnosed every day in Australia. So how can we turn this around?